Hi, this is Effective English Email lecture on organizing an email. Right? So now we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of actually writing an email. We're going to talk about the outline of an email, the military way of writing an email, and then we're going to actually start getting into some examples of good email practices. All right, so let's jump in. First, the outline. With an email, you're going to start with a very brief greeting. Hi, hello, that's good enough. You can have some small talk, like one sentence or less of small talk, but you very quickly wanted to get into why you were contacting the person, okay? And then immediately what you need from them. And you need that to be very clear, right? And then finally, you're going to have your closing, okay? So let's look at how this breaks down. So I've taken our outline and I've included some information. So for the very brief greeting, hi John, how was your vacation? Okay, friendly, courteous, and brief. Then, why are you contacting them? I'm just writing to let you know there's a mandatory meeting tomorrow morning. Good. 3, what you need from them. Please make sure you're in the conference room by 10 a.m. Closing, regards, Bob. Okay? So how does this look all together? Hi, John. How was your vacation? I'm just writing to let you know there's a mandatory meeting tomorrow morning. Please make sure you're in the conference room by 10 a.m. Regards, Bob. Very short, this is courteous, this is polite, but short and sweet, right? This is a great email, a great use of email. Right? A couple things to point out. These 2 words, just and please, make it feel more courteous and more polite, even though it's not very formal and it is very short. So these are 2 words that you can use in a similar way to achieve a similar goal. So again, we've got that very brief greeting, why you're contacting them, what you need from them, and then the closing. Another example. So same situation, but a little bit less casual. So a little bit more formal. Hi, John. I know you're just back from vacation, but I wanted to make sure you knew about the staff meeting tomorrow. It starts at 10 a.m. sharp. See you there, Bob. Okay, so our first example, example 1, this might be a supervisor sending an email to an employee, right? Example 2 here, this might be an employee talking to another employee. That's one possibility, right? Now, the Navy SEAL way, right? The military way, they're known as being very strict and very blunt and very brief, which can actually be really good. And we can use some of their methods, in our own practices. So they have a keyword in the subject, and I'll go through those keywords on the next slide. They also use what they call the BLUF. Bottom line up front is what it stands for. Bottom line means the main point, the most important thing you need to take away from this message. And it even has headings. It'll say bottom line and then background. Always concise and using the active voice, and then linking to files rather than attaching them. Always, always, always. These are the Navy SEAL best practices with using email. Before we get to an example, let's look at some of the keywords they use. And these would be keywords used in the subject line. The very first word in the subject. Action means some kind of action is needed. Sign means signature. Info is for your information. This means you don't have to respond, right? There's no response expected. Decision means that the person that's receiving this email needs to make a decision on this issue. Request means, there's some kind of approval. Maybe a new copy machine needs to be purchased or something like that. And coord means there's some kind of coordination that needs to take place. Okay, example time. To Rachel Roberts, Frank White, George Brett, CC Bill Brasky, from John Smith. Subject, info. So that's for your information. Next week's conference. Quality control team members. Okay, so we can imply that the quality control team is made up of Rachel Roberts, Frank White, and George Brett, and John Smith, and maybe Bill Brasky too. Bottom line, Bill will not be traveling with the team due to a family emergency. Okay, so that's the main thing we need to know. Background. Bill has informed me about a personal matter that has come up, and we agreed that he should not attend the conference. Second bullet point. It does not involve health or illness, but is a private matter. The discretion, understanding, and support of the team during this difficult time is appreciated. Regards, John Smith. This is a fantastic email, okay? Yes, it is brief. It is very brief. It is very direct, okay? But it's also very kind, right? So Bill is going through this really difficult time in his personal life that, is unfortunately impacting what he can do at work. But it's very clear, this is a private matter. What that means is don't ask him about it, right? Don't bother him about it. He doesn't want to talk about it. For whatever reason, he's not comfortable talking about it. Just support and help him out, right? This is a great email and a great use case of, it shows how this kind of military approach, it's not cold-hearted, right? It's not cold-hearted at all. It's just very, very efficient. Right? Example 4. So this would be a separate email, okay? So the first email is just making everybody aware of the situation. You actually use a separate email to, figure out the logistics of dealing with the situation, okay? So here you see the same people, and it says, subject, action, next week's conference. Quality assurance team members. Bottom line, we are going to have to take on some of Bill's duties for the conference. Plus, my trip to the factory in China is taking longer than expected. I may have to meet you in Berlin. Okay, so we all have a little extra work to do because Bill can't go to the conference. In addition, I am actually not even going to be in the office myself. And then the background information is where this person, who's probably the manager, gives out the extra duties to the team members. This is how we're going to share the duties to make up for Bill not going to the conference. Okay, so to review, we've gone over actually 2 different outlines, kind of a typical, usual, very brief outline, and then we've touched on the military approach, which is also brief and very direct, but has its own structure. And then we've seen some examples of both.